Okay, are we live yet? Okay, we are live. Hi guys, it's me. Wanted to make a video today about some information that I ran across that is kind of interesting. Um, yeah. So I was on Eden versus John's videos again. I love this guy. I think he's amazing. I did the Vatican cult stalking series on my channel about, some of the rituals and the goddess and the gods and all that kind of stuff, the occult rituals behind a lot of our stalking. Well, what I'm finding out about now, I had found something about the Devadasis, and the Devadasis are uh, it's basically like the queens of heaven. They're the temple priestesses, and they're basically children, young girls who have been dedicated to a goddess in India. And the girls are generally from the untouchable class, like the lowest caste in the Indian system. So they don't have a whole lot of options. They can either be like street cleaners or, and kind of starve, or they have to become dedicated to the temple. So what they do, just like in the real human trafficking and exploitation system. They target the priests, target desperate low income families and that. So what they do, these families dedicate um, their daughter to the goddess, and then she serves the priest um, and the community as a temple prostitute. And what they like to convince these people of is that or these girls is that, and the people involved in the cult or religion or whatever the hell it is, depending on where this is going out of, that when they have sex with these young girls who are um, basically queens of heaven dedicated to the goddess, that they are somehow getting spiritually enlightened, and that they are when really it's just exploitation. There's no God in it. It's completely satanic. It's completely inverted. Um, so these girls are raped and beaten on a daily basis by the priests of the temple, who who basically are just human traffickers. As I looked more into this, I can see many parallels with this system and the life that I've lived, because I unfortunately have been dedicated as a queen of heaven, um, which is not good. Um, and all right, this video is kind of difficult, but I noticed that there was some parallels in the with my own traffickers, and that's what we're going to call them. The trafficking system, they all have temples, and the Freemasons have temples, the Jews have temples, and the Mormons have temples. And I have every single handler that I've ever been approached by, or pimp that I've been approached by from these particular cult systems, has like called himself some kind of a priest, or like some magical shamanic type, or whatever, and they're always intertwined within these systems. The Catholic Church is also, and the Vatican are of the Dagon tribe, so they're also very much into this system of trafficking, and that's why there's so much pedophilia that is covered up in these churches, is because they don't see it as molestation, they don't see it as rape, they don't see it as anything bad, because it's part of a very parasitic uh, tradition and ritual that they're all a part of. And it's not only girls that are dedicated to the temple. If you look at the rampant sodomy within, like even within the Vatican, and how they cover everything up, done by the priest class, um, the young boys are also being dedicated to this marine kingdom. And one thing that I know is that in the marine kingdom, um, there is it's basically it runs the human trafficking, and it lives off of fear and misery of people and sexual energy and things like that. So um, I'm trying to be as articulate as I can about this, but it's a lot of information. So when a girl is dedicated to the goddess, it like in India, and utilized, you know, in that kind of a way, um, it's actually just being dedicated to Satan's marine kingdom, basically. And a lot of times, I know in my case, um, I grew up as a seer. I grew up as a psychic from the time I was little. And I almost have to wonder if it's the chicken and the egg. Did the gifts come from being traumatized, or were they already there and they put me in the system to kind of control them and monopolize them in that? Because I know that the priests that are taking away, that are, and the people that are participating in this particular system are, they're basically stealing the energy, the psychic and sexual energy, which is basically the same, of these young girls, and living basically in a sexual misery program that Lisa Renee goes into. Um, yeah. So I know that a lot of these priests are cut off from the Most High, and they can't create their own energy. So what I believe that they're doing is stealing the energy from these young girls and using it for their rituals and things like that. Um, I know in my case that has been done. That I've had some of these priest types, these all-knowing sages, specifically call me on the new moon and the full moon after not hearing from them for a while, and call and pick a fight and get a little bit of a jolt of energy. And I later found out that they were actually using it for their own magical workings. So I think honestly this is just a big energy vampire system. Um, but I did notice a correlation between all of my perpetrators having temples and the sacred sex, which is not so sacred anymore. And then also, even back in the day, this system was run completely different. It was never meant to be this way. Back in the day, the temple prostitutes, they owned land and they had rights almost just like a man. Whereas the wives of these men were relegated to being covered by a man. They didn't really have very many rights. Their husbands handled everything. But these women, because they're under the virgin goddesses, and even though they're prostitutes and not technically biological virgins, um, the meaning of virgin has to do with not covered by a man, not under a man, not submitted to a man. So that's basically how they kind of get around it. The unfortunate part, though, is even though back in the day they were allowed to have all kinds of freedoms and could basically, come and go and work at the temple and do what they need to do, own land, and live relatively free lives. In today's day and age, it is not quite like that. There seems to have been like a patriarchal, like a very nasty patriarchal element that has taken over the system and basically turned it into a hellhole for everyone involved in it. And what I believe it has to do with like an archonic interference of the relationship between men and women. And I also think too that everyone talks about the patriarchy and the matriarchy is going to take over, and the girls are going to girl power and all this stuff, and the men are going down, and the guys are freaking out, and they're all MGTOW, and women are all these bitches and everything. I don't believe that it's boys against girls. I don't believe there should always be a power shift between the matriarchy and the patriarchy. The wind. I believe that it's time for us to come together and work together and not be separated the way that it seems that these archonic influences would like. We are different, but we are complementary. And I don't believe it's time for the girls to take over again, because personally I know that females, when given an ounce of power, can be the most tyrannical, equally as misogynistic, jealous, overly emotional psychopaths in the entire world. So, yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing either. I think it's time for the sexes to come together and quit playing the boy versus girl bullshit that everybody's playing. And a lot of the women out there who are now seers and psychics and these like thought leaders and all this stuff, and they're all witches now and everything, are up with the matriarchy and that, but they're just as inverted as the MGTOW men are. It has nothing to do with, I don't know, it just has nothing to do with, they're not whole in who they are as women either. I don't know. The whole thing is very weird to me. I think it's time that the sexes come together and that men and women come together and we're not separated. And I think it's time for people to get healed. And because as long as there's a separation, we're always going to have problems. And one side is always going to be trying to dominate the other side. Or always plotting for that overthrow. But whereas if we work together, our families come together, our families heal, and a nuclear system will come back. We won't have all of this disruption going on, all of these people, the abortions and all that other nonsense. People will come together and respect and love for each other. But as long as we're separate, and it's the matriarchy or the patriarchy and all that, yeah, the patriarchy has royally fucked a lot of things up. They sure have, and it's not really, it's not good either what they've done to female sexuality. And I'm not also of that team that believes that women should go out and be these whores and that's empowering. Or, just get rid of men and be like lesbians and stuff. And, I think it's just time for everyone to come together and I mean, they're so hardcore on this agenda that they're attacking our children when they're born. And basically, I mean, your first identity is boy or girl when you're born, even before you have a name. Are you male or female? They're going after that, by attacking children and making them think that they're boys when they're girls and vice versa, and then pumping them full of hormones and ideas and things. And, I don't think that children aren't even aware of their sexuality at that age. They're barely even aware of their genitals beyond, like, going to the bathroom. They know that that's a girl and that's a boy, but they're not, but I just think they're overly sexualizing everything so they can get in earlier to invert it. Yeah, I don't know. But that's what I think. But it was kind of an interesting thing about the Devadasis and I don't know. So these poor girls over there are in the lowest caste system. And even in my situation, the Illuminati families are a caste system. And in my situation, I am unfortunately placed in the lowest caste of methamphetamine dealers and motorcycle clubs and drug dealers and all kinds of weird shit that I have nothing to do with. But when you are appointed to be a queen of heaven, or whatever the hell, it is, whatever your group calls it, Mother Goddess. And my birthday is February 19th, and Arizona Wilder even went over a lot of this in her interviews, and her and our stories are identical. And she said that the Mother Goddess figure for the cult is born on the Aquarius Pisces cusp. Well, on February 19th, I'm 2 hours into Pisces. So, and then my entire chart is mostly Aquarius and, Venus and Aries and all that kind of stuff. But it's basically the chart of a Mother Goddess. So, I mean, like, it's kind of wild. So, but this is just one part of the many, things that go into this. I should have written down notes so I could stay on track, but this is just kind of thoughts in my head right now. So, I don't know, guys. I think this gang stalking thing is ancient, like they say, and it's timeless. It's gone on forever, and we're all gang stalked for different reasons. Some because someone out there thinks that I'm their property, and that they can, rule my life and take my finances away, and control every single thing I do and have me watch 24/7. It doesn't mean anything, because at the end of the day, they have to do this much to me because I actually got away from all of it, and I retreated to the Most High, and I found something different. And they've been trying to get me back reprogrammed and flipped and DNA altered to the point. And then I realized, they're putting the pesticides in my vents all the time since December, and pesticides altered the DNA in a person. So if they wanted to change the DNA that I fixed and cleaned and corrupted, that would be a way to do it. So that's why they're spraying pesticides on everything, so people will have corrupted DNA. So even beyond the getting cancer, it's almost, can we get your soul before you get the cancer? You know what I mean? Can we get you to your DNA altered and mutated to the point that you'll become something that the Most High didn't create you to be, and then on your way out, get your soul. Like, pesticides are very tricky like that, as I did more research. So, I don't know. All right, I'm going to go. I'll talk to you guys later.